I'd like to say that knowledge acquisition is all about being willing to accept and willing to learn. Because as Sir Brian Herbert says, the capacity to learn is a gift, the ability to learn is a skill, and the willingness to learn is a choice. So before we learn anything, before we go into anything, the most important thing is being willing to learn, being open to learn, and being interested to learn. So all my dear students, what I would like to say is, the learning will be a much enjoyable process and much interesting process. Number one, if we are interested in a particular topic and willing to learn it. So let's see how we'll go into each of them. Now, the study of Sharira Kriya will always be enjoyable. Why? Because this is a live subject. It is something that can be experienced in studies. Because Sharira Kriya is as the definition goes, it is a Kriya Pratipadaka Sharira. Kriya Pratipadaka Sharira means it's a branch of Ayurveda that deals with the functions and processes that are happening within ourselves. And it also looks into the implications of any external or internal stimuli upon our body and how we will be giving a pratikriya to that and how we will be giving a response to that. So study of Sharira Kriya is all about study of ourselves. So we can make it much more interesting and make it much more enjoyable if we study it with the right attitude and aptitude. So Sharira Kriya is about knowing thyself or knowing ourselves. Knowing thyself needs awareness about self and awareness about the nature. As you go into the first basic principle of Ayurveda, that is Loka Purusha Sadharmya. Basic gist of Sharira is that human body is a micro replica of nature. It's just a micro replica of the macrocosm. This is the microcosm and that is a macrocosm. So studying the nature, we'll be studying ourselves, and studying ourselves, we'll be studying at the nature. So all the rules that are applicable to the Loka are also applicable to the Sharira. Hence, Sharira Kriya is about knowing ourselves. So let us look into what are the proper resources that we have to have in our place before studying this particular subject. The first thing is textual sources. Most importantly, the three samitas, the Ashtanga Hridaya, the Charaka Samhita, and the Sushuddha Samhita. As far as the first years are concerned, I'll give far more emphasis on Ashtanga Hridaya in comparison to the other two Samhitas. But then references have to be studied from Samhitas itself, because one Samhita may have a slightly different information or extra information which may not be found in the other Samhita. I'll give you one or two examples of that as I move on. One textbook of Sharira Kriya. Which textbook? Now there are multiple textbooks available. Whichever textbooks that is being proposed by your Sharira Kriya teacher will be good enough, which will have a compilation of all the things that are needed for Sharira Kriya as per the syllabus. One textbook of modern physiology. Modern physiology, which book? We have multiple books around. The most popular one in our state will be usually textbook of physiology by Sembulingam, which is quite popular amongst the students. There is a textbook of physiology by G.K. Paul, which I usually recommend. There's a textbook of physiology by A.K. Jain. So whichever book one finds it better for himself, one that is suited for themselves, can be had by themselves. The premier textbook of physiology like Guyton and Hall or Ganong can also be had with the students. But as far as our syllabus is concerned, I would say they're a bit ahead of our syllabus. So it's better to stick to one book that one will be suiting for themselves. So choose such book and get that book. Next thing is also relevant research articles nowadays, which are available on the online sources. Make it a habit to look into certain research websites that are suggested by your teachers, wherein you'll be having some basic articles regarding some of the concepts of physiology around. Referring to these articles will be much more helpful as in understanding the principles. Nowadays, we have multiple physiology apps available and multiple online sources like classes by Dr. Najib, Khan's Academy, and any of such online sources can also be utilized for having the knowledge in Sharira Kriya, for studying Sharira Kriya. It's not that we need to have all these sources, but even one of those sources can also be helpful. But it's always better to have the sources in hand before we actually get into the, before we actually dwell into the studying of the subject. Having all the resources itself is too extensive. What we can do next with that is concise it. Concise it by preparing the short notes or class notes. Whatever notes have been done in the class, or by preparing short notes from these large 1,200 page textbooks. Of course, studying 1,200 page textbook for during examination is going to be a tough task. Make it into a short ones, make it into a short note so that this can be glanced and referred at hand. Make sure we have a question bank with us, question bank of all the questions that have been asked in university examinations. We have part 1 and part 2 in Shareera Kriya. If we make it into A and B, roughly there will be some 100 questions each. That makes it some 400 questions, which keep repeating over and over and over again. So usually 90% of the times it is these 400 questions that the questions revolve around. So make sure we have a question bank at hand and make sure that we have all answers for that at our hand. And one shloka handbook per subject is always necessary. Because see, if you look at our subject, this is basically doshadhatu malamulam hi sharira. The earlier name of Shareera Kriya was doshadhatu malamulam hi sharira. So there are some minimum 100 shlokas that have to be known by a Shareera Kriya student before it goes into examination. Put all the shlokas in a handbook and then go along with studying that. So these are some of the basic resources that we need to have in our hand before we actually get into the study of the subject. So studying of this particular subject, I would say we can make utilization of 3 particular techniques for study of physiology. That is number 1, observe and visualize. Number 2, imagine and interpret. And number 3, experience and learn. I'll give one example each for each of these techniques, starting with the observation and visualization. What do we observe? Observe everything and anything happening inside you and around you. That is, observe your food, your sleep, your breathing pattern, your circulation, your sense organs, and each and every process that is happening within us. Because this is exactly what is human physiology. And once we experience this Kriya within us, it is easier for us to relate to that particular thing. For example, before I go into this example of conduction of the heart, I'll give an example of, we have all studied salivary glands. And we know that these parotid glands come here below the ear, wherein the secretion of salivary juice is going to be happening. So where do these glands open within us? They open in a duct called as Stenson's duct. So the word Stenson's duct won't relate us to much unless we know where it is opening within us. As an example, now just think about a gooseberry, or just think about your favorite pickle around you. You're going to get salivation, is it not? Just observe where that salivation is coming from. Take your tongue over upper second molar teeth. Take your tongue, upper second molar teeth. We can see the saliva coming. We can feel the saliva coming here at the right upper second molar teeth, where the Stenson's duct is going to open. If you feel that the saliva is coming there exactly with the tongue, that sticks to our mind that, okay, this is happening within me. This Stenson's duct is present in me, and this is exactly area where it is present. There is one more duct, Wharton's duct. Where does it open? It opens at just lift your tongue, frenulum of the tongue, root of the tongue. We can feel the gush of saliva. Large 70% of the saliva comes here. So you can feel it actually below your tongue. All the saliva coming inside. Just give a name to that one. So just give a name to something that is happening within your body. So this is observing yourself and visualizing yourself and learning a particular thing. So in this particular manner, every process that you study, just analyze within yourself where this is happening inside me, how this is happening inside me. That helps in better understanding of the subject. To give one more example, this is something that we cannot really see because we can't touch our heart, or we can't really feel it like our mouth or other thing. Now, this is where some of the visualization with the help of animations and other things help. Now, for example, if you're studying the conduction system of the heart, you know that it is a SA node, AV node, a bundle of his and Purkinje fibers. So you need to be writing where exactly it is present. So you need to have this picture of the heart in the mind and visualization of where exactly that sinoatrial node comes. Now, most of the first year students may have studied about SA node. You know where it is going to come. It is just imagine this picture of the heart. Just imagine so this is where the opening of the superior vena cava comes. Below the opening of the superior vena cava, we are going to be having this sinoatrial node. So just rather than knowing it's a pacemaker made out of P cells, if you know where exactly in your heart it is going to be present, where exactly at the right atrium it is going to be present, it is going to be helping us more to be relating ourselves to a particular subject. Where is the next node coming in? Next node coming here is here at the AV node. Where exactly does it come? It comes at the interatrial septum. Interatrial septum means between the wall of the right atrium and the left atrium at the lower part. So we need to see where exactly that wall is there and where we visualize that, AV node. So this, once that picture sticks in your mind that, okay, AV node is in this particular part inside my body. Next is the bundle of fission. Next is the Purkinje fibers, and next how it goes and flows all over the wall of the heart. That picture helps us in understanding things in a much better manner. So this way, I'd like to tell students, visualize every concept that is present in your body and observe that concept in your body, and that will stick to the mind. So this is what I mean by observation and visualization. And there are many things that are actually not possible to observe or visualize. For example, there are many concepts that are abstract, that is, you can't really put a picture to that, or you can't really put a color or a shape to that. So to understand such concept, we have to make use of the ability of the manas, that is the uha and vichara. So our manas has an infinite ability to actually visualize things, to actually imagine things, and we have to make use of that and to analyze the things and to put them in the right perspective. Because hesitation to think and hesitation to imagine will mean a hesitation to learn. So, for example, just take for example the concept of Kriya Kala. How the different stages of pathogenesis of a disease or stages of vitiation of the dosha, you learned this. Now your teacher will be explaining to you that chaya is the first stage, sanchaya is the first stage where there is going to be accumulation of the dosha in a particular place. This is something that we cannot see. This is where we have to put our imagination into the place. It's just like filling up of a pot with the milk, or filling up of a particular utensil with something inside. Here the utensil is what? Utensil is the location of the dosha. For example, if you're talking about vata, think about pakvashaya, kati, sakti, shrotra, asti, any particular seat wherein the filling up of the doshas is going to happen, and which will be leading to a particular symptoms. It is going to be, firstly look at the symptoms, look at the shloka, get the meaning of that, as you can see in this particular slide, and then imagine and interpret it. For example, vata comes with the sanchitanam kaladoshanam stabda purna koshtada pita vasta mandoshmata changanam. So vata, we should relate here it to the stabda purna koshtata, or that is the hampered movement in the entire GI tract, which will be leading to the blockage, which will be due to actually the sangha and vimargamana happening in the srotas. So we have to get a picture of something that is getting blocked here in the GI tract, which will be leading to the vimarga gamana, or the reverse movement, which is going to be leading to the stabda purna koshtata, or blockage or feeling of heaviness here in the abdomen. So this picture we can feel inside ourselves, because this is something that we have all experienced. It is not that we have not experienced these symptoms. Just imagine on one rainy day in Mangaluru, you may have gone out to have some ice cream, or had an ice cream and had a few samosas around you. On the next day, you may have got some of these symptoms. Why that was happening? Because there was small vitiation of vata, which led to the small symptoms happening here in your koshta. Similarly, pitta can also lead to things like pita vasata or mandoshmata, that is reduced acne, reduced heat in the body. This is something that you have experienced. Kapha will be leading to gaurava or alasya, that is feeling of heaviness in the body, feeling of laziness in the body. Haven't you felt these symptoms inside you? Yes, you have felt. When have you felt? Do a retrospective study. When did I feel this laziness inside me? When I feel this heaviness inside me? What happened to the one day earlier before that? What were the nidanas that I did? What were the things that I did which led me to be having these particular symptoms? So that way, if we imagine, interpret and relate to these things, which otherwise may be difficult for us to see, it will be easily understood by us by doing this retrospective study of any particular symptom, if it has happened within us. Of course, I'm not telling that every disease you can experience and study. You cannot be studying diseases like Madhumeha or Kamala or Pandu in your future state by getting a particular disease and studying. Not possible, because all of us can't get sick. But these some of the basic things which are happening within us, which we have all experienced. It's much easier for us to relate to them and study it. So that is what I meant by interpretation of the things that is told in a text and that is happening. And lastly, the last technique that I would like to highlight upon is the experience and learn. Every concept which is studied in the class needs to be experienced by ourselves to understand that in a implicit and explicit manner. There's a two way in which you can explain your memory. That is, one is a declarative manner and one is an implicit manner, or one is a procedural manner. Now, declaring something, it is more of fact. If I ask you, which are the clotting factors, which are the 13 clotting factors, all of you in the class will be telling 1, 2, 3, 4, 13 clotting factors. You're going to be declaring that. But will you be able to tell it in your second year? If somebody asks you which are the clotting factors, most of the times it will be difficult, because you will not have understood that in an implicit manner, because it's only a fact that you're going to understand. Many times, if we convert some of the understandings into a procedural memory within us, that's going to stay with us for a longer amount of time. To give you an example of this, take for example the muscles of respiration. You all remember certain Greek names or English names like sternocleidomastoid, then your levator pelleti, then your alienisi, then your pectorals, then your scaleni, then your pectorals, then your serratus anterior. So different names you will be remembering. So these names are going to stay just like names if we don't see them within us. So when you're studying this particular thing, make it live while studying this. For example, take a deep breath. So which is a muscle did I use to take this deep breath? This is where I use my alienisi, the muscles in my nose, to sniff and create the pressure to take the air in. Muscles in my mouth, levator pelleti, which created the pressure for the air to be going inside. I can see the stiffening of the muscle over here, the sternocleidomastoid, touch the muscle over here, touch the scaleni over here. Keep your chest here, keep your hand on the chest, take a deep breath. This is going to come forward. This is the pectorals. Then we can observe this thing widens. It becomes a V shape. It becomes more like a V shape when you take a breath in. So this becomes wide. Why this is becoming wide? Because there is involvement of our serratus muscle, the serratus anterior, which is coming here in the sides. When you do this, that is how it's going to increase our capacity of the thoracic cage. So make functionalization of each muscle that you're going to study as a part of the physiology. So that way we are never going to, if I do this, okay, serratus comes into play. If I do this, alienisi comes into play. If I take my shoulders up, this is where the pectoral elevators of the scapula are going to come. Our scapula go up when we breathe in. Elevators, the scapula coming into play. So when we see this, all the muscles working within us while doing a particular physiology in the body, we will begin to love those muscles. We'll begin to love those muscles more. Otherwise, sternocleidomastoid or the pectorals will be an alien thing for us. But once we see that, okay, this is within me, this is where it's going up, this is where it's going up, we begin loving ourselves and begin loving our body. Because this is what we lack, most of us right now. One more concept related to that. That is what is that? That is the respiratory capacities. Here we have different terminologies. It's more of mathematics. Now, tidal volume. What do you mean by tidal volume? It's a normal amount of air that's taken inside the body during an inspiration and an expiration. So just while you're breathing in, without putting too much effort, see that, just observe the amount of air that is going in. About 500 ml of air is going in. Take a full breath and just imagine how much amount of air that is within. It is more. How much? Put a figure to that. You can look at this slide, this particular slide, and so you can see that it's about 3,300 ml of the air that is going inside when you're putting this extra amount of effort and breathing. And breathe all the air out. And see how much air is going to remain inside. We are not going to see the amount of air inside. We need to look at the facts here. It's about 1,200 ml of air that is going to remain inside. But do those things and then look at the facts and figures. Otherwise, those facts and figures will not mean much to us. When I breathe fully out, and if I still have some air remaining inside within me, that is the residual volume. And then if I give that residual volume a particular number, 1200, 1100, according to different books, then, okay, this much air is remaining within me. So this is what I mean by live physiology. This is what I mean by experiencing the physiology within us. So every concept that is happening around us, let us make an effort to experience that within us and then study. One more thing which comes most crucial in the study of physiology is the importance of samitas. All first year students, you have to make Ashtanga Hridaya your best friend in first year studies of Sharira Kriya. That to chapter number 11, chapter number 12, chapter number 1, these things have to be by heart. Why? Because another name of Sharira Kriya is Dosha Dhatu Mala Sharira. Unless we know about Dosha Dhatu Mala, there is no point in us being a Sharira Kriya student. And all these explanations have been given in this particular 11 chapter and 12 chapters. Almost 99% of the shlokas there are needed for us. So make sure that we study all these shlokas from Ashtanga Hridaya for excelling in, for understanding Sharira Kriya and for excelling in Sharira Kriya. And not only Ashtanga Hridaya, at times your teacher may also tell you one or two extra things which are told in Charaka, which are told in Sushruta. Why I am emphasizing here only Ashtanga Hridaya is because this is there in first year syllabus. So Charaka may have told one or two extra things. Sushruta may have told you one or two extra things. What those things have been told by the teacher. Just we need to open up that particular text, that particular reference, and have a look at that, because certain gunas may be slightly different in one or two other samhitas. So firstly, make Ashtanga Hridaya your best friend, and make the other two samhitas your associated friends. Sutras of the basic fundamentals are for rest of your life. It is not that these shlokas regarding dosha dhatu are for only passing first year examination. Your clotting factors are only for passing first year examination. Or there are many other things that are in physiology which after first year examination you'll never remember in your life. But these sutras are not like that. You become a professor, you become a clinician, you go wherever, these shlokas come to use. Which shloka? Shlokas related to dosha, dhatu and mala. So make sure that you by heart these fundamentals for the rest of your life. Because these concepts keep coming back to us again and again. You go to Roga Nidana, again you'll study Srotas, again you'll study Dosha, Dhatu. You go to Chikitsa, you'll study how to combat Vata, how to bring down Vata. We need to know what are the gunas of Vata, Sthana of Vata, and Karma of Vata. So these things, they keep coming back again and again. So make sure that all these important sutras are by hearted in Sharira Kriya. Okay, the time's also moving. I'll go to the next point of Prayogika Sharira Kriya, or the practical physiology. The practical physiology, most of the times, we study it in the laboratory and we end it in the laboratory, but that's not how it is. Practical physiology doesn't end in the laboratory. It actually begins in the laboratory and it ends by its application. Because studying practical physiology is actually a very small thing. It's not a big deal. For example, you have studied what you have studied. You studied your bleeding time, clotting time, 2 minutes explanation. Take a prick, take a blotting paper, touch it, take a stop clock and just see the time. It's not nuclear physics to learn the last thing, or clotting time. Take blood, put it in your capillary tube, break it. These are not large, very difficult kind of explanations that you would think of. But what's important here is not just that procedure, where I can apply this thing. For example, if I study about sugar in urine, take Benedict's reagent, heat it, add drop of urine, 5 to 8 drops of urine, and see the color change. GYOR, green, yellow, orange, red, over, topic over. Is it? No, the topic is not over that. What we have to understand next to that is, when this glucose may be found in urine, what is the reason for the finding that glucose in the urine? Which hormone could that be? Okay, is it insulin? Okay, what insulin is doing? Taking glucose inside the cells. Okay, how it is taking? What might happen if there is deficiency of insulin? Where is that insulin secreted? Pancreas. Where in pancreas? Okay, islet of Langerhans. Where in islet of Langerhans? Okay, this particular beta cells. So that way we have to relate things to the next step, next step, next step, next step. And that is how practical physiology is going to help us. Just by looking at the procedural aspect of that may not be much use. You'll be studying the examination of blood pressure. Okay, tie the cuff at the brachial artery. Just look at the pressure at the cubital fossa and observe for the sounds. Doesn't end there. Take to the next point. Where the blood? What are the reasons for the blood pressure going up? Is it the blood volume? Is it the viscosity? What is a particular reason? Then understanding that particular. So whenever studying Prayogika Kriya Shareera, whenever studying practical physiology, give equal importance to the applied physiology. So then study students. So that is going to be helping us in a long way. And even the concept of Prayogika Kriya Shareera or Prakriti or Sarata or Vriddikshaya, understanding of Prakriti is not a big deal, isn't it? You have done 10 Prakriti evaluation, you've seen your Prakriti, you'll say I'm Vata Prakriti person, I'm Vata Pradhana, Pitta Prakriti person. But it ends there? No. We have to observe these things in others. Okay, my friend, what Prakriti he could be, or my father, my mother, or a patient that I'm going to see in the hospital. What gunas may be more inside him? Whether Rukshata is more that is leading to this particular thing? Or why is this fellow being very lazy? Is it because of the Gurutva inside him? Is it because of the Mandatva inside him? Or why this fellow always is angry upon me? Is it because of the Tikshnata, Ushnata inside him? So, application of these prayogika practicals that you'll be doing applied to the things around you, that is going to be helping us in looking the world in a much better manner, understanding people in a much better manner. So, a study of this Prakriti Vriddikshaya will definitely help us in understanding the patients in a far more better manner. If not patients, at least understanding ourselves and understanding the people around us in a much better. So apply them. Whatever you study in Prayogika Kriya Shareera, apply. So this is how, in short, study of Shareera Kriya can be done. And after the study is done, one has to go through this study cycle. That is, read a particular thing, understand it, then refer. Read it again, understand it, and refer, and make it a study cycle. So what I mean by making it a study cycle is, see, if I read a particular chapter, say I'm reading some XYZ chapter now, I'm understanding it. Say I'm reading a cardiovascular system, I'm understanding it. After 1 month, if I read that particular chapter again, the amount of understanding that I'll be getting, it will be this much more, slightly more. I read it again after some time, the amount of understanding that will be getting will be this much little more. To tell my personal example, I've been teaching since last 13 years. And every year while taking one particular subject, I'll have to glance to that chapter or study that chapter again and again. And I'll tell you, every time I read that particular textbook, at least this much, it may be 5%, 10%, 1%, how much ever. Little bit extra knowledge is something that we are going to get when we are going to read something again from a different angle. You can do one thing. If you're getting bored reading the same textbook again and again, you can go for some other textbook. There are many textbooks available in your library. Same topic, but a different perspective. So by converting this into a study cycle, that is reading something, understanding something, and then referring it again, that makes it a very enjoyable process, and that makes it a very understanding, the understanding easier. So I'd like to emphasize on this study cycle for a particular study to be complete. And well, this is the most important thing. Firstly, I said the willingness to learn was most important. And lastly, I'd like to say hard work has no substitute. Striving for success without hard work is like trying to harvest where you haven't put the seeds. It's just like you reap what you sow. So the seeds of hard work are necessary for getting the success in Shareera Kriya or in any other particular subject. So make a proper plan and then go ahead with the studies. Because what our exams test or examine, it is memory. Whether you like it or not, our examination system is more of memory based. Theory is more of memory based. Understanding to some extent, understanding and application, which will be more in your Viva voce examination. And presentation, very important. which I'm sure, Doctor, in the next session, you're going to be getting a good understanding of that. So our examination system is more of memory based at this particular time. So make sure that you're going to get that memory right, get that memory far more importance, for you to be putting that in your examinations. And while studying, keep in mind that having a gross knowledge, 100% knowledge is one thing, but keep in mind what a evaluator accepts. When he's going to value a paper, he wants relevancy to a particular question. I know 100 things, doesn't matter. Do I know to get the right answer to the right question? That is important. If I know 100 things and write 100 things, there may be a lot, it will be like beating around the bush. So while studying, make sure that you're precise. Make sure that you're relevant to the question. When you're going to the question bank and answering it, make sure that you're relevant to the question. Appropriate shloka while studying, make sure that where you're going to use it. We see many of the students studying many shlokas and then using it in the wrong places. Because I studied 100 shlokas, sir. Where I'm going to use it, I don't know where I'm going to use it. So make sure that where it is more relevant, where I'm going to use it. Present it in a systematic manner. Make it look more beautiful by putting neat diagrams and flowchart if you've got the talent within you. Haphazard presentation is something that nobody likes. You know the knowledge, but you put it here and there. Haphazard manner. No. While studying itself, make sure that you go in a systematic manner. After page number 2, or mind tells open the page number 7. No, go to page number 3. Then only go in a systematic manner. Okay, these are some of the points that that are more relevant to the next part of the presentation, I think. So that is what I'd like to tell in short regarding the study techniques for Shareera Kriya and what one should keep in mind before looking into or before studying in this most enjoyable subject and most lively subject that you're going to find in your entire BAMS study. Mark my words, this will be the most enjoyable subject if we study it in an enjoyable manner. So with this, I'd like to thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity for getting in touch with you regarding this topic. Thank you very much for the management and principal of the institution. And thank you all the gathering for a patient listening. Thank you very much. I conclude here.
Thank you, sir. Having said that, I must tell that he actually emphasized on the hard work part of it. So then only being hardworking will never be useful. So then you have to understand that it should be also a smart work that you have to think about. Okay, let me just tell you some of the objectives that I just planned to convey. Well, smart work and hard work go hand in hand. How to prepare for the examination, presentation skills in writing the examination, score optimal in practical examination, as well as face Viva fearless. Okay, before I start, because see now, since Kriya tells me that it is a kapha kala having food, and in the first part of digestion, it is kapha kala, and it will just decrease the circulation to your brain and it will increase to your stomach. And simultaneously, there is a chance that you close your eyes. And I have a challenge of keeping you awake. Let me just go with a small story. There was a woodcutter working for a certain company. He had a hard time. He had a very difficult life. He only managed a very small amount out of his work. And then, after some time, the company, in fact, hired another one. See, the first one feels always the threat when the second one comes. The same thing happened here. And this second man, he did not seem to be working very hard. However, continuously he went on getting the increments at regular intervals. This is really astonishing for the first man. He got frustrated. See, you are working very hard, and your friend is one who actually progresses academically. Definitely, it will create a kind of a discomfort for you. And this is what happened here as well. And he went to the first man and humbly requested him to reveal the secret. And what is that big secret? Yeah, here is the secret. He simply followed a rule of sharpening his axe after cutting every tree. While the first one used to sharpen his axe at the end of the day. Therefore, after cutting the first tree, when the axe got a little less sharper, then it would take him double the effort to cut the tree, and so on and so forth. Therefore, See, here lies the fact of including the smart component in that hard component and making it a smart work. Definitely, making it a smart work will work out in your favor. Let me try to give you some ideas and inputs so as to how you could do that. First of all, see, it is the most neglected part, most relevant part, but the most neglected part by the students. They don't even bother to read the syllabus. Knowing your syllabus is quite important. You have to read your syllabus not once, but multiple number of times. So you should be aware of each and every term in the syllabus because see many a times it happens you pray to God. I know that God is close to you, but still sometimes He doesn't listen to you. There is a word which is totally unknown to you. This happens primarily because you have not gone through the syllabus. Then try to know the basic concept of every term mentioned in the syllabus. See, syllabus is hardly 2 to 3 pages in your syllabus book. Only 3 to 5 pages might have been dedicated to your syllabus. So then it doesn't take you too long to read it. And while reading, make sure that you are aware of each term. At least a bit of it is known to you. See, for example, I'll let you know. See, Ojo Visramsa. Ojas you've heard. Ojo Visramsa you've not heard. Visramsa is Sthanachyuti. Means at least this one single term, Sthanachyuti, if you are aware of, then you can write. You can write something, you write something imaginatively, which I wouldn't expect, but in case you have no other option, you will have to go for it. Ashraya Ashrayi Bhava. See, the term itself is suggestive, but having not read the syllabus, unaware of it, then naturally you end up getting a big zero for it. Lipoproteins. See, you have seen the copies of several investigations of your relatives, parents, or whoever it is. And this lipoprotein is a word which is very familiar to you, but having not seen in the syllabus definitely puts you off when you see it in the question paper. Similarly, you have other words, hemopiesis, or maybe even more complicated terms, but definitely your thorough visualization of the syllabus will give you a better idea. Now, this priority zone definitely has to be made for because once you prioritize the things, then it makes it easier for you to go through them more repeatedly. I completely understand. Having come from a science background, it is difficult for you to accommodate yourself completely in a Vedic science. Therefore, you may find it difficult. Then you have to definitely identify some of the priority areas. And who will help you? Definitely your teachers will help you. You just make sure that you mark them as those which are repeatedly asked, rarely asked, and totally remotely asked and never asked. See, once you make a list of this kind, then you have a clear idea like which are the chances of which is a question that is more likely to occur, less likely to occur, and never occurs. This helps you in the nth moment of your examination. Now, don't forget these three classical steps as mentioned in Ayurveda: Adhyayana, Adhyapana, and Tadvidya Sambhasha. Adhyayana is about learning, definitely. Oh, all the time, what we have been talking about, how to learn, already, sir has told you sufficient number of things. And once you have done the Adhyayana properly, then you try to do the Adhyapana, at least to your friends. Adhyapana is teaching. See, mock teaching is a very powerful tool in concretizing the things in your brain. Then comes the Tadvidya Sambhasha. See, having not done the first two steps, you don't qualify for the third. You should remember this. Simply discussing with some of your friends without any knowledge base wouldn't result in anything fruitful. Therefore, you have to remember that no two big groups because the things get deviated completely and you just end up discussing about the Riha Chakravarti issue. Therefore, you have to make sure that you have a very small group, interested group, as well as this is not something to be done at the nth minute or the last minute. Okay, then comes preparation for your examination. Make short notes, as sir already mentioned. Definitely, the short notes is going to help you a lot because you cannot read or you can't go through the whole syllabus to just the previous day. make a list of keywords. This is a key to writing, because the keywords are the words which we are looking for, we the evaluators are looking for. Then maintain a separate book for shlokas. This is a very simple task and this is a very effective task. And at the most, it will take you 10 to 15 minutes per day to go through those shlokas. And each day you go through it, effortlessly you can reproduce the shlokas. See, I have a girl child of some 9 years and she's able to recite the whole Lalita Sahasranama of 183 shlokas just because of this small effort. So then why can't you by heart? Definitely you can. Next comes solve at least a few sets of question papers, few sets, as sir already mentioned that at least, see, some of them definitely get through just by solving the previous question papers. Though I do not expect you to follow only that method, but that also is very important. Then subject yourself to mock examination, because whatever said and done without a rehearsal, the actual program, the live program, may not turn out to become powerful. Okay, this is something which I want to instill into you. This is a transdisciplinary as well as recurring shlokas. See, this is one concept that which we always feel that this will be very helpful, because shlokas which you study in one context can be used across the board in wide variety of conditions, like a variety of questions can be answered through a single shloka. Therefore, in wide subject range, like what you study for Astangradaya is helpful in Kriya Shareera as well as in Rachana Shareera, and it can also be quoted as an example for Padartha Vijnana. Now, this is something which is unique about Ayurveda, and this is how you have to make use of it. Now, I'll tell you that I can guarantee you, having studied one set of shlokas, you can be sure that all 4.5 years you keep on repeating it for each and every exam, and every time you stand a chance to score the full marks. And see, you get the materials, maybe a fridge or a TV, and you get only a warranty of, not the guarantee, in fact it's only the warranty of some couple of years or 1 year. But I guarantee you that for 4.5 years you can use it for your examination and rest of your life for your clinical practice. See, kupitanam hi doshanam sharire paridhavatam yatra sangam khavai gunyam vyadistatropajayate. See, very simple thing, but the same thing indicates the complete pathology or the process of pathogenesis. And wherever you don't understand when pathogenesis has been asked, you can reiterate that. And as such, Kriya Kala is there for all 3 to 4 years of your study. Tatra balena stiropachita mamsata sarvacheshta pratigataha. See, this shloka again, see, this is one shloka which I was just trying to utilize during this COVID, just because this gives you the complete clinical idea. And ojas is something which is very sought after by most examiners in the question paper as well as in the viva voce. Therefore, transdisciplinary approach through shlokas is very important. Then you have a plenty of overlapping areas. Already, sir, I told you about the Astangradaya first chapter, then again the 11th chapter as well, the 12th chapter. See, it is not very difficult to by heart it. Believe me, you just try and give it an attempt, and I'm very sure that you will be successful. It's only about repeating it. Kriya Shareera and Rachana Shareera, there are so many overlapping areas, and whenever you come across a situation you don't know anything in Kriya, then you may have to write something from Rachana as well. See, but this will not work in your favor every time. But in some context where you can't make up for the stuff, for the number of marks it is asked, definitely you can make it a tool. Then what is there in evaluator's mind? When you go for a singing competition, you just try to figure out what is the judge looking for. Similarly, you should be aware what the evaluators are looking for in your paper. We would like to see, I'll just tell you what is our mindset. In fact, all those who evaluate the paper, they have a mindset, and this is what I'm trying to reveal here. We would like to find some basic facts which will entitle you to qualify. Like, see, this whole process of examination is to see to it or to assess whether or not you have understood the things. So then we actually want to know whether you have known the basic facts or not. We very well know that 3 hour assessment definitely is not a complete assessment. Evaluators do not want to disqualify anyone, or we don't want to fail anyone just because we do not know at all who it is, because the papers are totally coded and we have no idea about it, and of late we are receiving only the digitalized version. We receive only the digital version, as you know. Getting into evaluator's mind further, first impression is the best impression. Therefore always make sure that you always go for the very neat paper, at least in the first few pages. No evaluator has enough time to go through your answers word by word. See, yesterday Manu sir has been telling, and Ranjit sir has also been trying to give you an idea so as to how you have to depict the things. Today I'm not going to repeat those things, but definitely it is a thing which actually makes them tell you this, the method of presentation. Because evaluators do not have whatsoever in this world, they do not have the time to go through the paper word by word. They would look for the keywords, and that's where they can actually award you with marks. And evaluator is not your enemy, definitely, because many a times I've seen people cursing the evaluator, and definitely he doesn't know who you are, and therefore there is no enmity between both of you. Most irritating things for the evaluators, see, like, try avoid doing these things. A poor and illegible handwriting will put me off. Whatever be the good mood that I am in, definitely it will put me off when I look at it for the first impression. Then wrongly written question numbers, now the context doesn't arise, I'm sure, because most of the papers have the question numbers written on them. And irrelevant answers, see, don't write irrelevant answers right in the beginning, at least. Okay, this is a just request as a evaluator. And then erratic order of answering also is a troublesome thing for the examiner or the evaluator. Then orderly arrangement of matter, disorderly, in fact disorderly arrangement of matter. See, like, I'm looking for some points in the beginning, like there's some kind of an introduction for a pituitary gland, then you write that at the end, and in the beginning you write about some hormones which may have to be written right at the end. As I go on, I'll show you some of them. No spacing and no highlighting, this is somewhere I feel like, you, whether you have paid the complete fees or not to the university, that you are so miserly in spending the pages. Don't be so miserly. Make space for yourself, as well as make space for the examiner to look into your words. Therefore don't do conjusi, just be liberal and be balanced as well. Poor reproduction of shlokas. See, don't think the examiner doesn't know the shloka, and don't write your own shloka. That's something which irritates the examiner. Therefore these are some of the most irritating things, and try to avoid them. Then ambiguity in mind. What is ambiguity that you have? What is the confusion that you have? What makes you anxious? So then when the marks assigned is less, it is not necessary to include the modern points, because this is something which always you think about. Every time you have to write something modern, you have to include some Ayurvedic part of it. See, according to the marks allotted, let's assume that it is ojas and 3 marks are allotted for it. You don't write about the immunity completely, because see, you're just losing time. See, time is precious. I'll speak about it, about time and management, in the upcoming slides. Do not bring in the modern points prominently when a question is addressing only an Ayurvedic topic. See, like, I'm talking about Kriya Kala, and you just go on writing about pathogenesis just because your teacher has taught you and somehow you became interested in it. No, I'm not interested in it, because there is enough number of things mentioned in Ayurveda for the 10 marks allotted for it. Pure modern questions need not be mixed with Ayurvedic points. Then mechanism of respiration, if I were to tell, like, modern question has been, from the modern side, the question has been asked. Then if you have sufficient matter there, don't just try to what fit into that some Ayurvedic part of it. Not necessary. The rule is answer to the point. Then the previous day of examination, this is where many people get anxious and they do wrong things, end up with a very bad performance. Do not be nervous. That's the first thing, because you're not writing the exam of a lifetime. It's not about life and death. It is just about examination to qualify for the next year. Okay. So then that is the first thing. Have a good night's sleep. Many a times I've seen people sleeping 1 hour, 2 hours, and ultimately in the examination, all getting exhausted, having dizziness. This can be completely avoided. Have light food and do not overeat or starve. Remain hygienic and dress decently. This is very important. I'm not sure like how many of you can understand this. I see that very badly growing a very big beard. Somewhere like somebody should feel like there is a devdas within you who is actually propping up at the time of examination. Okay, then keep your identity card, admission ticket in a separate pouch along with 3 sets of good pen which can write well, as well as couple of pencil, rubber, scale, and whatever the stationery that is necessary, because this is something which you should not be looking for within the examination hall. On the day in the hall, what is that you have to do? Reach the venue on time. This is the first thing, because I've seen many a times students turning up late because they try to read at the nth moment. Don't get turned off by looking at unknown. Instead, the cherish the known ones. See, don't look at the negative side of the paper. See, look at the positive side of it. Attempt it first, and then maybe you go for the rest of the questions which you are not well versed with. Too much excitement or too much of disappointment, both are injurious for good performance. Then comes the golden rules that you have to follow. Attempt the known ones first. Do not spend too much time thinking, or don't be attached to any single question. Or in fact, while writing the answer, don't become too involved in it that you forget the time allotted for it. Like you may be knowing a lot of thing about hormones, and the question is very a generalized one, and you just don't go on writing about each and every hormone in detail. At the end of the day, you find that your 30 to 40 minutes have been spent on one question which you cannot afford. Try to complete the answer paper without sparing any question. This is very important, because even if you write a couple of words for the 3 mark question, half a mark may be allotted to you, which may be crucial for you to get through. Spare at least 10 minutes for cross check. Situation faced regarding a question. See, you know a lot of things, okay, and the marks allotted is very less, very disappointed, but never become sentimental or emotional about the topic of interest, and just don't go on writing for a 3 mark question. You write about 5 pages, which should have been ideally for the 5 marks, 10 marks question. Okay, so then that is something to be avoided. As long as the page numbers have been, question numbers have been given on the answer paper, then probably this problem may not be much of a consequence. But what many people do is they write in very small words that they can accommodate as much as possible within these 5 pages. There are two disadvantages. One is that we overread the things. We just don't ignore the important points and go to the unimportant ones, and therefore you may not score well, and your handwriting also gets tampered just because of your effort. Anyway, that's why you try avoiding doing this. You know less and the marks allotted is more. What do you do in this context? Present in a manner such that you begin on the most promising point in the answer, the most relevant one, known one, you start with, and then you can go and beat around the bush. Okay, situation faced attempting a question is you do not know anything. Okay, this is not fewer occasions that you come across. Attempt the question in the end. Okay, don't start scratching your head and wasting time on that. You attempt that question in the end. You have a confusion, again you have a chance to attempt it in the end. Okay, time management. Here's time management is also a very relevant one. Time is what we want the most, but what we use worst. See, this is what happens. This is what William Penn says, and this is what we actually implement. Because most of the times you spend the time doing something irrelevant, and ultimately you end up having no sufficient time. Therefore, I've just converted this one equation like 7,200. This is the hours, is the duration of the course as such, considering your course to be of 10 months, which has not have turned out to be so even, I mean, this year round. And then all the things that you studied in this 10 months, how do you present it? Where do you present it? And how much time is allotted? In the examination, 3 hours plus 1.5 hour at the most for your practical examination. That is together 4.5 hours. And when this 4.5 hours of your work is being assessed, my evaluation time for a answer paper is just 10 to 15 minutes, not even that much in many contexts, because we too have a target. Then maybe some 20 to 10 to 20 minutes in the Viva voce as well as for the practical examination. You should understand this. You have to put in the best performance in the allotted duration, therefore consider all factors before moving into performance zone. Okay, remember time provided is not for thinking but for writing, because see 3 hours is not meant for you to just go on thinking and then write, because you are not writing some literature summary of the facts that you are writing, and not don't get too attached or detached about the same. Okay, mark time equation. Yesterday, Dr. Manu has already told you about it to an extent, but here I'm just quickly repeating that a few things. Well, maximum time allotted is 180 minutes, and 10 marks question at the most you can utilize 15 to 20 minutes. See, let it keep ticking in your mind so that you don't overshoot very badly. Now I'll show you the equation at the end. However, 5 minutes maximum time and the minimum time. Maximum is 10 minutes and minimum is 8 minutes. And 3 marks question is just 3 minutes to maximum of 4 minutes. Now, mark time equation, the upper limit, I just put go on adding this and it comes up to 180 minutes. Now, you cannot afford to spend all 180 minutes attempting only the answers, because I've told in the beginning that you have to spend some 10 minutes for your checking the answer paper, because if you have missed out on some relevant points, you've missed out on answering some questions thinking that you will answer it conveniently in the end, then for all those you have to do justice. That's why you cannot afford to spend all 180 minutes. Now lower limit, if it is added up, then it comes up to 140 minutes, and this 140 minutes, I'm very sure that in some of the questions you will definitely overshoot your time. That will happen, that's not to be worried about. And somewhere between the two you will end, and you have some 10 minutes for your checking the paper. Therefore, with this kind of a time equation in mind, if you attempt the paper, you won't end up distorted as well as disheartened that you could not attempt all the questions. Remember, lower limit is your target. Spare time for checking your paper, which is important. Space management, because space, okay, now this is not of a big consequence of late, because as I mentioned, the question numbers are already mentioned. But again, within the space allotted, how well you utilize the space is another very important question. Now, 10 marks question, see, there is one very important thing that I would like to convey, that don't think that the evaluator will weigh your paper and put the marks. It is not about weighing your papers and not the number of pages that you have consumed. The amount of fact that you have put into those pages is what counts. Now, keywords as caption is very important. Yesterday also we discussed about it, and now just I'm giving you a small gist of it. Like if a question about ojas is asked, then what are the things that you could cover? This particular idea should be there beforehand. Ojas in terms of its definition, utpatti of ojas, bala, and the definition of bala, because bala and ojas to a large extent are the same. And then dashagunas of ojas, para apara ojas. See, like even if you write a couple of sentences against each relevant sentences, not simply sentences, I'm very sure that the examiner will take it in the right spirit. Therefore, you have to make sure you write the captions very importantly. Okay, then comes the handwriting. Well, this handwriting, as Dr. Manu also discussed about this yesterday, and he has come out with a wonderful idea that you can present differently, though you cannot change your handwriting. See, this is what Gandhiji had to tell about your handwriting. I saw that bad handwriting should be regarded as a sign of an imperfection. Don't be disappointed looking at this sentence, because Dr. Manu has mentioned about the a way to overcome it. Okay. Now, this is how it looks to me. See, as an evaluator, how do I look at your paper? Like, what is the visual clipping that I get in front of me of your written paper is this way. See, now this handwriting seems to be very difficult to follow. Now, therefore, see, imagine yourself in the evaluator's place and you just think over how much marks you would award in case you come across. Would you take the difficulty of reading word by word, or even few words also is difficult to read? No, this, at least in terms of space, this person is better. At least I can make out few words and I will be able to figure out what is that he is trying to tell. In this previous one, there is no way that I can do it. I'm already short of my time in terms of completing the number of papers as an evaluator that I have been allotted. Then I wouldn't take the trouble of reading it. I would just imaginarily put some marks without taking any chances. Now this followed by, see, look at this one. See, I don't tell this is a great handwriting, but the way that he's writing, the word by word, it is seen very clearly. Now, this may not be the case, at least in terms of space, you can manage it. But handwriting is very important. Now, coming to the presentation, see, this is one mistake that I've always come across, and that's why I thought of highlighting this. Now, if you are asked the coagulation factors, which is a very likely question and very often asked question. Now, these 13 factors, how would you write them? Okay, having written this in this manner that is displayed here now is very pleasing to me. Now I'll show you the other way of presentation, which many people do. Now the answer is exactly the same. When I look into this, I get puzzled, in fact. Like, how do I go on looking for each and every one? See, in the previous version, I'll show you. Here, somewhere around the line, you have committed some mistake in naming a factor. It may go unnoticed. But the next one, I don't take the trouble of reading it. I'll put some imaginary marks. Now, let me go to the next one. See, now the factor number has to be mentioned. That is quite important, especially when it is the coagulation factors that we are speaking about. Now, if this factor number is missing, as you see in this slide, definitely I'll not give sufficient marks. Now, there is nothing about remembering the factor number because it's not all that difficult. Okay, you've written it in an order, then you just have to write the Roman numbers 1, 2, 3, and so on. Now, therefore, while you present, you have to remember the simple fact that presentation can make a very big difference. It's the same matter, it's the same facts that you're conveying, but when you present differently, it makes a different impression. Content management, definitely, as I mentioned earlier also, like the previous one example that I quoted here also. So like, see why I've written as 10 to 15 is because we are getting people from across India, and that's why there are still some universities which follow a slightly different marks pattern. Now, if it is 10 to 15 marks, these are the captions that I would like to look into. Like, see, this is not difficult for you to remember either, and it is not difficult for me. It makes the things much easier for the evaluator. See, with all those captions, I don't read them individually, but you just go through them later. Well, if you happen to write all these things, see, if you cover 70 to 80% of points mentioned above, it is guaranteed that you get 80 to 90% of marks. Therefore, you make it a point that you write it very precisely. See, like Medu Dhatu, there's another example for it. I'm just skipping through this. I'm just going to the next one. Well, okay, there are a few things that you need to remember again. Avoid mixing too much of Rachana in Sharira Kriya. See, as I told earlier, definitely you can make use of Rachana while you write Kriya because you lack material. Sometimes when you really do not know much about it, then maybe, see, for example, there is something about the, like your heart that is being asked, and the conduction system is being asked. Definitely there's no need for you to explain about the anatomy of heart. But since you have no much idea about it, there are a few sentences inclusive of its size and dimension, other things, then I have no objection with it. Okay, therefore, too much of mixture is not allowed, not pleasing. Small amount of admixture can be tolerated. You can do it when you know nothing or attempting something which is totally unknown to you. Okay, then coming to diagrams in Kriya Shareera. Diagrams are a representation of your understanding of a structure or mechanism. That's why you should be aware of this small fact that you're not an artist. I mean, at least if you are, even despite you're an artist, I have respect for you, but it is not that I expect an artist to be there within each and every person. Okay, therefore, for me, what is important is you have to write it and you have to label the parts very neatly. Okay, without any mistakes in labeling the parts or leaving out the. There are occasions when people write just a diagram without a single labeling. That doesn't really appeal to me. Therefore, draw them visibly in the center and not in some new remote corner of the page so that I find it difficult. And while labeling also, don't do any miserly work because you can write it very legibly. Artwork is not what we are looking for, it is smart work. Okay. Now, these may not be very visible to you. This is simply, I just took some very few minutes in drawing them just to show you that it can help you, like just drawing a rough picture. See, I'm not an artist and I really don't have much of an experience drawing this, but still you can manage to draw these kinds of pictures within 1 or 2 minutes, or at the most 3 minutes. This is what was my attempt. Okay. Then practical marks distribution. See, because we have just been talking about theory all the while, now just look into what are the things that you have to cover under practical examination. This practical examination is something which you have not faced any time. Written examination, possibly you have written multiple number of times, but practicals is something new to you in a sense, not completely, because even in your PUC days, to some extent, you must have done that. Now, practical examination covers laboratory practicals for 20 marks, then the human experiment 15 marks. See, these titles are important because you should have a clear-cut idea so as to what are the things that will be asked in your practical examination and what is the marks distribution pattern. So then spotting is for 15 marks, Prakriti Saradi Pariksha is for 20 marks, and practical record will be evaluated for 10 marks, and ultimately the Viva voce that we conduct will be for around 20 marks. Score optimal in your practical examination. That's very easy for you to score here. It includes an activity and identification. See, these are the two components that are involved here. Practical examination is meant to assess your practical skills and not the theory. See, if you are able to recite the whole process of experiment and you're not able to perform it, that's not excusable, because however you may be given half the marks, but that doesn't assure you best of the marks, because see, how best the activity can be performed is what we are trying to assess, and you just reiterate the theory, memorizing it, that is not our concern. So you have to be very well versed with your practical examination. Okay, so then the emphasis is on performing the activity. Learn thoroughly the prescribed experiments and practice it a couple of times. This is where many a times I feel like, see, in the practical hall, like during your college days, definitely the environment is not very tight. It is somewhat a leisurely environment, and that is why I find that many students go wrong there. They never even touch the instruments. They never make an attempt to learn it. They just hover around, they just fool around, they just make fun of each other and totally forget about it. See, have some kind of inquisitiveness in you. These are the new things that are being given to you, or you are being exposed to a very new environment in terms of experimentation, in terms of practical utilization of instruments. Then you should be curious about it. That inquisitiveness should be there within you. Definitely it will help you. For every lab experiment, have a shorter version listing the instruments, then the flow chart of events, maybe in a few words. That would be possible. Just list because see, whenever you go for a tour, you make a checklist, isn't it? You make a checklist of things what you have to carry along with you, and make sure that all of them are carried with you. Similarly, make sure that you have a checklist for every experiment, just to go through them a few number of times, and you see them, you touch them, you feel them. As sir in the first session mentioned, see, it is not about visualization, only visualization here. It is also that you have that component of touch. You can touch it and you can experience it for yourself. Enjoy your practicals, because everything is evidence based. See, till your PUC you've been learning things evidence based. Then now again, if it is Ayurveda, doshas may be in terms of concept, but when you do a practical experiment, it is always evidence based. Therefore you should be enjoying it. This is live interaction and you can't be complacent about it. See, it is such a wonderful thing, like you are made to go around and just try to perform the practicals, and the outcome of it, so it is like a very small kind of a challenge for you, like how well you perform it. Like you have to do a smear, you have to do the WBC test, or you are doing some urine test, or whatever be the case, you have an outcome for it and you can rejoice over the right outcome. Like we know the test conditions, what would be the outcome. Like maybe some water is given to you to check as urine, and in that context some sugar water is given. You should expect some color change, and that color change will give you that joy. As long as you find it joyful, definitely you will understand it, you can reiterate it. Identification of instrument is not a difficult task, as they are just 15 to see. There are only, see, understand this fact, 15 to 20 instrument that will be displayed. See, it is year after year, it is almost the same instrument which is displayed, and these are the instrument of clinical utility. See, you have a stethoscope around your neck to mark you as a doctor, but what is the use in case you don't know how to keep it into your ears, or how to, which is a earpiece you not know, what is a chest piece you not know, what is the use? Definitely you have to understand what are the uses of it. See, there are innovative ways of learning, you know. There are people who can come out with very, good innovations even in learning. I'm very sure that many of you have a very innovative brain, better than that of mine, and you can actually do it in multiple ways. This learning process can be done in multiple ways. See, one very small thing which I used to practice, I would just tell you. Like, see, there was one context when we had to learn a lot of, like in Dravaguna, possibly you will come across next year. We had to learn a lot of plants, their botanical name, as well as their features, and what are the uses. See, what we did was, see, we had some 60 students in our class, and each student was being assigned one plant or one tree. Okay, and anytime I ask her or him, she should be able to tell the botanical name, which is not a difficult task for that individual as well. But multiple number of times we used to ask them, and every time they answer. See, I remember her face. See, like for example, if I tell Ashwagandha, I remember Adarsh. Okay, he was assigned this particular drug, and definitely every time I ask him Britannia somnifera, I can recollect it so easily. The same thing can be tried with your instruments as well. See, you assign an instrument each to each of your classmates, and the moment you look at his face or her face, you should be able to recall those instruments. The same thing, innovatively, you can design in multiple ways. See, you are better than me in writing the skit. You can write a script for your experimentation. You can enact it, and definitely you can see to it that you specialize in it, because this is something which will not put you off. See, if you go on reading the same theory part of it, definitely you become dejected or you become bored. Therefore, when you enact it, it brings in a kind of enthusiasm within you, and it also makes the things more concrete for you. Relate the answers to some parallel events. See, like for a digestion, see, if you consider the process of digestion, especially in Ayurveda, you can compare it parallelly to something similar to that of a cooking process. And every component, see, now I do not have the time, I cannot explain it completely well, but you can just try to relate each component of this whole process of paka, ahara paka vidhi, to that of the cooking process, and it will exactly match. So it is not only about the theory, even in your practice clinically also you can do that, and you can find very wonderful results. Well, facing a Viva fearless, because Viva is something again not so commonly exposed to. You are not very often exposed to Viva, I'm sure. Therefore, this Viva component is also something relatively new for you. And here again, you have very important things to be done. And the first of all, you have to keep yourself away from panic and anxiety. No panic, no anxiety. Remember that maximum, at least 70% of the team which is actually subjecting you to Viva is on your side. See, there is a external examiner, there's an internal examiner, there's a subject expert. Both the internal examiners as well as the subject expert are from your own college. You very well know them. That's why they are always helpful to you. Therefore, there's no need to worry. Relax and rewind, because once the theory is over, then it is only about rewinding, revisiting, as well as adding some practical things to it. You have to be cool and composed. See, many of them, despite knowing the facts very well, they fail in delivering just because they can't keep their cool. They have understood the things well, they can reproduce it well, but just because they do not have that, they have the component of fear within them, they have the problem in expressing it. Okay, then the next very important thing, your attitude and posture matter a lot. See, go in humbly, respect the teachers, respect the external examiner, and don't create some grimaces or expressions on the face. Don't try to take sympathy. Just be calm, cool, and composed. Humbly go there and sit in a right posture. Sometimes you find people sitting in some awkward postures, and the examiner feels very irritated. And many a times, the first question itself is the most from the remotest corner of the text. See, this should not happen. That's why make sure that you go there cool, composed, with a good attitude, and just place yourself comfortably in a good posture. Then mock vivas, that we always do it in the colleges, but again, among yourselves, within your friends, you can always do it. Carry all the testimonials and records as per requirement, because sometimes it may be something, see, like you are supposed to take your record book along with you, and as well as you have to take your admission ticket along with you. There are instances when students have come in without these two things, and suddenly the examiner asks, and the answer is somewhat very careless answer they give. Definitely it will irritate the examiner. Therefore, make sure you carry all the testimonials required. Then be frank and straightforward. Just don't keep on pretending that you know the things but you are not able to answer. If you really don't know, just be straightforward enough to tell that you do not know. Because we'll hop on to the next question, and you remember one very simple thing, that there is a hierarchy of asking questions. Like we go from the easiest ones to the toughest ones. Generally, that is the order in which we try to organize ourselves while we ask the questions. Like if you are not able to answer the simple ones, maybe we'll just scale down. And if you answer the simple ones, you scale up, you upgrade, and similarly you qualify to get a better marks as well. If you get struck midway, do not in fact to stagnate there. See, like what happens many a times is that when you are answering with great enthusiasm, you just get struck somewhere. You see the computers get hung somewhere, then don't get stagnated there. It will just spoil the whole event. Therefore, you just skip on that point and just go to the next one. There's no problem with that. Okay, do not discuss with your, do discuss, in fact, do not discuss unnecessary things. Do discuss the relevant questions that the examiner has asked previously. See, there are n number of occasions when we have asked the upcoming students, the next coming students, the same questions that we've been repeating for the previous 5 or 10 students. And even the current student is unable to answer it. It is really very disheartening, because see, they did not even bother to ask what was asked to the previous student. Then this is not excusable, isn't it? Therefore, always try to ask your friends who is exiting from that Viva hall, so as to what were the questions that were asked and what is the expectation. Now, remember, in a well-structured Viva, as I mentioned, the hierarchy and the level of questions from easy to difficult always remains. Therefore, it is important that you follow it properly. there is very chance that if you do not in fact answer any of the questions, the examiner may ask you so as to which is the subject you are well versed in. See, this is not for getting very good marks, it is just to manage or to just to pass or get the meager marks. He may just ask you so as to which is a topic you are well versed in, which you can answer confidently. See, at least you earmark one area which you know very well so that spontaneously you can answer any question he asks. And in the bargain, there are chances that you get still better marks than you deserve. Therefore, this is the few points that I would always expect you to remember.